Chapter 8. A Chance Encounter. Perimeter's all clear, Kurapika stated in his best professional tone. It made you smile for some reason.
Roger that,
Squall's voice replied over the phone.
On our way up.
Understood. Once the call had ended, you turned your head towards him. You were leaning against the pillar of the hotel's valet entrance, trying to appear casual. Something's been on my mind. The way I see it, there are two options regarding our target's connection to the spider's activities. Either he's the unluckiest bastard in York New City, or his presence surrounding the incidents was no mere coincidence. I've been thinking the same thing. He crossed his arms and looked at you. My hypothesis is that he's involved with some sort of underground crime ring. Did you get through all the info the organization sent us? Unfortunately, no. He sighed. The alert came in just before my shift started. Talk about inopportune timing. I'll sift through it for you the best that I can. However, I was able to read that he's the owner of a club in the central part of the city. What kind of club? He asked skeptically, and you smirked at his slight grimace. It's not a gentleman's club, don't worry. He blinked at how easily you read his mind there. It's a nightclub called Freak, only it's spelled differently from the word. I see. It's a shame that I work Friday night. That would be an ideal time to investigate. He's more likely to be there on a weekend, I imagine. Trade shifts with Melody. I heard her complaining that she'd rather be off during the day so she could follow a lead of her own. How often do you talk to her? His voice wasn't raised, but he was clearly shocked by how ignorant he was of your secret interactions. You laughed at his perplexed expression. I just run into her in the lobby sometimes. You're taking Neon shopping today, right? While you're there, get yourself something more club appropriate. You eyed his blue and gold tabard. While you're out, I'll go grab something too. If you want, I can give you some money. Don't! Even before you start! You cut him off with a fingertip to his lips before he could reach for his wallet. He pursed his lips at your interruption, and it almost looked like he was kissing your finger before you removed it. Suit yourself, he said with a hint of mischief in his eyes. But then I can't guarantee I won't get you something while I'm gone. You scoffed and called his bluff. You don't even know my size. I have special eyes, he replied snidely and looked you up and down. Or did you not notice? His smug smile quickly vanished when a noisy female voice came barreling through the automatic doors. Wah! It's no fun by myself, though! What's wrong, Miss Nostrad? Kurapika asked hastily, trying to quell the onlookers' gazes. Squalla and Melody followed on her heels, looking exhausted already, though you knew their shift had only just begun. Melody never wants to try on any dresses, Neon whined, and pointed an accusatory finger at her. They don't look good on me. She flipped her palms up helplessly, as if she was stating the obvious. A laugh escaped your chest. You didn't know that Melody could be funny. Oh, an idea spawned in Kurapika's clever mind. Well, my assistant needs a dress for a party this weekend. Can she maybe accompany? Well, then what are you standing around for? Let's go! Without hesitation, the adolescent girl yanked you by the arm into the back seat. What do you think of this one? You're right. The other one is much more your style. Plus, it accents your skin tone. The three bodyguards watched as you were dragged to and fro throughout the designer store. Melody glanced up at Kurapika, who was smiling in amusement at the scene before him. Neon held up a garment in front of you with enthusiasm. She was evidently thrilled to shop with someone in her age range for a change. The dress in her hands was black with bold white and gold accents, giving it an oriental feel. I think that one might be, too ornate for me. I see. She put it back on the rack and fished for more. It would be easier if I knew what you like to wear. What's your favorite color? Scarlet. You blurted without thinking, then froze. Any shade of red, really. You tried to backtrack, but the damage had already been done. Kurapika couldn't fight back a smile when your cheeks erupted into the hue you just mentioned. He must have caught on to the reason for your sudden embarrassment. Melody giggled softly, and you had no idea if she was entertained by the way your heart stumbled, or the absolute look of stupidity now etched across your face. Is that a new development? Kurapika pried. And you had no idea if the glint in his eyes came from a place of mischief or genuine curiosity. You cleared your throat in an attempt to gather your composure. Perhaps. You pursed your lips and averted his gaze, though you were certain your poker face had more than fallen by this point. It had utterly shattered on the pristine mirror-like floor. Found it! Neon's outburst startled you out of your discombobulation by shoving a deep red dress right in your face. It's perfect, right? Kurapika watched as the piqued interest in your features descended into horror at first glance of the price tag. Oh god, I can't afford anything here. It's gorgeous, but this store might be a little high-end for me. It's on me, silly goose, she chimed, refusing to put the dress down until you took it. Daddy won't know the difference. That's much too generous, you squawked. But it was no use. The forceful little rich girl was already pushing you towards the fitting room. Your armful of one dress paled in comparison to the load she had draped over each elbow. Now try it on. I pride myself on these eyes of mine, so I'm almost completely certain I picked the right size for you. When the door shut you in, you finally sighed. It was hard to believe someone as bubbly as Neon didn't have more friends her age. But then you figured her ties to the Mafia must have hindered her teenage normalcy. You had to hand it to her, though. When you slipped on the crimson article, you immediately didn't want to take it off. Its neckline scooped but didn't plunge, and the semi-open back revealed just enough skin to not classify it as suggestive. It also had a delicious little slit up the side of one leg, the perfect amount for a flirty swing of the hips. You yelped at a loud fist at the door. When we get done picking out mine, let's go look for shoes next. Okay. You hollered back before turning the handle. You were met by the eyes of both Melody and Kurapika. They both seemed to stare you up and down for far too long before making any comments. You instinctively curled an arm to your chest to cover the dress. Is it too much? No. Kurapika stammered out quickly. You look stunning. I have to agree with Kurapika. Melody nodded. It's very becoming on you. Let me see! A shout, followed by a collection of loud thumps, echoed from the luxurious stall next to you, before Neon stumbled out, adorned in a low-cut blue dress that fanned out at the bottom. She took in your appearance and lit up. Was I right or what? You simply have to get it. I'll think about it. You agreed to appease her, but that price tag sure hadn't left the back of your mind for an instant. Taking advantage of an impressionable mob boss's daughter for monetary gain seemed like it would be right near the top of the list of things you could possibly get shot for. So you were honestly considering looking elsewhere instead. That was when Kurapika cleared his throat and turned to Melody. Would you cover for me for a few minutes? I have to make a purchase. The small bodyguard non-verbally agreed. I'll scan the area on my way back. He shot you one last glance, before turning on his heels and walking away. You stepped forward, following him with your gaze until he had exited the shop. What are you doing? Melody asked, having seen you very blatantly lean over to watch Kurapika leave. Oh, nothing. I was just making sure he wouldn't pay for the dress without my permission. He's a sneaky one. If he wants to dote on you so badly, then why don't you let him? I won't give him the satisfaction. You narrowed your eyes dramatically, and she laughed. So anyway, I heard you two talking a little while ago. Did you end up working out the scheduling thing? Oh, yes. Kurapika is pulling a double shift so that I can follow up on a lead on the Sonata of Darkness. Yeah? It's strange, isn't it? What is? A double shift will be hard for him. Yet he agreed to help me out without a second thought. We're almost perfect strangers. That's Kurapika for you. You smiled warmly at her. Suspect behavior for one who claims to be strictly self-serving. Wouldn't you agree? Her lips curled upwards to mirror yours. You were right back then, you know. Huh? When? He's kinder than I initially gave him credit for. Oh, yeah, I remember. But don't sell yourself short. Even then you didn't think he was bad, per se. Just ragey. You curled a thoughtful finger to your chin. I mean, you weren't exactly wrong about that. But it was your quick defense of him that compelled me to take a second look. That, and I heard an unusual melody between you two. Is that how you knew I wasn't really Kurapika's assistant? You lowered your voice so Neon wouldn't hear. Yes. Based on the emotions I heard, I assumed the two of you to be unlikely lovers. She said it so matter-of-factly that it took you aback. Well, what gave you that idea? It has to do with the level of comfort in each other's presence. How much you rely on one another. I heard a more profound maturity to your connection, which sounds very different from dating high schoolers, whose cadence usually sings strong infatuation, and very little else. How long have you known each other? A little less than a year now. Ah, that's even more impressive still. What's it sound like? I'm curious. You were invested now. You had to know more about your special connection with Kurapika that sang an extraordinary tune. It has sort of a weightless countenance, tied with an ebb and flow of balance. She raised and traced her index finger through the air, as if conducting something you couldn't hear. Melody's eloquent verbal abilities always managed to impress you. It's very sweet. I can hear how much you love him. A jolt of instant panic erupted through your body, and she immediately picked up on it. Don't be so nervous. I'm not going to tell him. You blinked rapidly a few times, to gather your scattered composure. You paused, bulking in the face of your own shameless need to ask. Does he feel the same way? She clasped her hands behind her back and smiled playfully up at you. Why don't you ask him? You blew air from your puffed cheeks, a nonverbal sign of your inner deflation. Things are a little complicated right now. It's not a good time. Well, if I might offer some advice. She was still wearing that uncharacteristically mischievous grin. I suggest you wear that dress more often. She pointed to the ruby gown. His heart definitely skipped a beat when he saw you in it. You blushed hard at that, and for a brief instant you considered retreating back into your dressing room and slamming the door. But this was Melody standing before you. No words that ever came from her mouth were intended to belittle or humiliate. Melody. You cleared your throat. I wonder if you might acquire an item for me. What kind of item? You're familiar with the Kurta clan, correct? To be continued.